Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom. How's everybody doing? All right, I'm Officer Jeff.
Officer John.
All right, and I've been tasked with bringing forth the word of the Most High today. The title of today's lesson is the Bible, Precept upon Current Events. And the whole idea of this lesson came when when Deacon Shalimar or Jermaine taught a lesson regarding the Bible. Was it about 4 months ago? And the approach that he took was trying to explain the validity of the scriptures, because you'll see a lot of brothers and sisters that are just leaving Christianity altogether because they've realized that what we know as traditional Christianity is off. But instead of looking at the Bible from another perspective, they just left altogether. So when he taught that lesson, he went over some scriptures that a lot of people tend to misunderstand, and when they get that proper understanding, it proves the validity of the Bible, it proves the validity of the doctrine of Christ, and so on and so forth. Where I'm coming from, using the Bible, I want to use the Bible in a way that we can relate it to what's going on today, using the current events of today. And you will see throughout this lesson that what you see happening in the news actually lines up with Scripture. And that could be a good talking point, if we're trying to bring the truth to somebody, because they may not want to pick up the Bible or hear what the Bible has to say exactly. But if you'll see a news segment, it's like, wait a minute, I could talk to them about that, because that's in the Scripture. I could use it in the form of a parable like Christ did, so on and so forth, and maybe they'll get to understand it. Y'all follow me? All right. So let's get into it. The Bible is the only written record that can give you proper understanding of what's going on in the world today. All right? Now, that may sound biased, but even non-Christian / non-religious groups have used the Bible for historical references. I'm not sure if you all heard of that or known of that, but they'll use the Bible for, to date certain periods of time, right? But they'll put away the book after that, okay? I've even, on one particular video, I've seen atheists quote from the Bible. Check this out. I've seen atheists quote from the Bible just to judge the actions of those who say that they believe. They'll quote what Christ may say. Well, aren't you supposed to be acting this way? They'll say that they're atheists, but yet they're going to the scriptures to say, well, quote unquote, Jesus says, do this. How come you're not doing that? But they're atheists. Go figure that. Okay? I've seen Muslims, Farrakhan is famous for this. I've seen Muslims attempt to teach from it because the accuracy of the Bible can't be matched. Okay? Another example would be, one might question the validity of the Bible or the existence of Christ, but struggle in their explanation of the terminology of BC and AD. Right? All right, so what they have to understand is that a global timeline was literally changed after the birth of someone. So if it wasn't Christ, then who was it? And what book would you use to explain it? You understand? So I've asked that question before. They'll say that the Bible ain't real. So, well, what year is it? What you mean? It's 2018. Well, if the Bible ain't real, then that whole BC AD thing don't exist. So what happened between BC and AD? You understand? So everything in our lives, we're at a point to where we can relate everything in our lives and filter it through the scriptures. Okay? Everything. Okay? Whether it be from the science and technology fields to the political arena, the social climate, even the global economy. It all has to be filtered through the Holy Scriptures to gain clarity. Okay? Now, the problem that we seem to keep running into is that nobody wants to deal directly with what the Bible says. Okay? People in general would rather believe in opinionated philosophies instead of the concrete evidence that the Bible can offer. Okay? And this particular group is getting a lot of notoriety, especially because they support this guy that's in the office right now. The evangelical community would be a prime example. They claim to be Christian, but place the ideals of conservatism over the law, statutes, and commandments of the Most High. Okay? These hard Republicans claim to be Christian, but won't quote any scriptures. Because if they were in the scriptures, they would see what's happening in the political arena don't line up with the scriptures, right? But when you look at the actions of Christ, he wouldn't take any part of what we call politics today. He's a king. Who does a king need to vote for? Nobody. Follow me? Okay? So, the purpose of this lesson is to show that the Bible is 100% relatable to the current events of today. And as I said before, we can look at the current events, line the current events up with Scripture, and through that, with the hopes and Most High's will, we could use this as a different approach to reach the masses. You follow me? All right, so let's jump right into it. Let's go to Matthew chapter 13, pick it up at verse 10.
All right, this is the book of Matthew, chapter 13, verse 10. And the disciples came and said unto him, Why speakest thou unto them in parables? He answered and said unto them, Because it is given unto you to know the mysteries of the kingdom of heaven, but to them it is not given. For whosoever hath, to him shall be given, and he shall have more abundance. But whosoever hath not, from him shall be taken away, even that he hath. Therefore speak I to them in parables, because they seeing see not, and hearing they hear not, neither do they understand.
Okay, so the disciples asked Christ, why does he always speak in parables? Okay, and a parable is a statement or comment that conveys a meaning indirectly by the use of comparisons or analogies. Okay, 1 second. Okay, comparisons or analogies. All right, so his answer was when it's time to give the real understanding, they don't have the ears to hear. You follow me? The truth could be too much for them. Okay, the same thing can happen to us. So let's take a moment to examine what Christ is talking about in Matthew chapter 24. All right, let's turn to Matthew chapter 24. We're gonna cherry pick some of the verses in there just to build a point. Give me King versus Kingdom. Jump down to that.
Okay.
In nation. Matthew chapter 24. He's gonna pick it up.
Verse 7.
Verse 7.
All right, so the book of Matthew, chapter 24, verse 7. For nation shall rise against nation,
Okay.
and kingdom against kingdom,
Mm-hmm.
and there shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes in diverse places. All these are the beginnings of sorrows.
Okay, stop right there. So we should all pretty much be familiar with how, or the tone of how Matthew 24 is, correct? Okay. So in verses 1 through 31, it's pretty dramatic, to say the least, okay? He's talking about earthquakes and nation against nation, kingdom against kingdom. He mentions wars and famine. He speaks about false prophets and, further on down, he speaks about the false prophets and betrayal, from family members and so on and so forth. All right, so let's jump down to verse 32 through 37.
Verse 32.
Keep in mind that that whole buildup is like, wow, it's going to be all that going on? Pick it up at verse 32.
Now learn a parable of the fig tree. When its branch is yet tender, and putteth forth leaves, ye know that summer is near. So likewise ye, when ye shall see all these things, know that it is near, even at the doors. Verily I say unto you, this generation shall not pass till all these things be fulfilled. Heaven and earth shall pass away, but my word shall not pass away. But of that day and hour knoweth no man, no, not the angels of heaven, but my Father only. But as the days of Noah were, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be.
Okay, so what I was just saying earlier, all of what he was saying was like a build up to a great climax of a story, right? And out of nowhere, he says in verse 32, now learn the parable of the fig tree. Okay, so it's kind of it can kind of throw you off, right? Because who was talking about figs after all of that? How could he just inject now learn the parable of a fig tree? Was he hungry? So what I'm saying is that the same thing can happen to us because we have the ability to speak about what's going on in today's times, right? And we could have so much zeal behind what we're saying whether it be about the economic crisis, the social conditions, or the political arena, right? And it automatically draws people in. And you can tell when you have people hooked on every word that you're saying, and out of nowhere, you say the 4 words that can completely kill the conversation. But the Bible says, conversation over. You can have them, ready to say, well, Donald Trump is a racist and this and that, and the reason why they hate us is because we black and all this stuff, and everybody's drawn in on that part of the conversation. But when you say those 4 words, that's a wrap, because don't nobody want to know what the Bible says. But again, it's only through the Holy Scriptures where we could give that proper understanding. Correct? Okay. So all of the enticing words that you said prior to that, it's like it just turns into Charlie Brown language. Wah, 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 wah. After you say what the Bible says, that's it. They don't want to hear no more. Okay? So we could use the current events in the news in the same manner, okay, and filter it through the Holy Scriptures. We may have come across a few people who we can have dialogue with regarding the trending news topics, but those same people can turn a deaf ear to when you mention the Bible, all right? Because everybody has their own philosophies and ideologies about why things are the way that they are. The Christian community will say one thing, Muslims will say another thing, and then you go into another sect or a group of people, whether it be Kemet or Egyptology, they'll have their own spin on it, right? But none of them have the answers. It's only through the Scriptures where we can gain clarity, okay, and proper understanding, okay? So when Christ said, learn the parable of the fig tree, he said, basically, when the branches are tender and the sprouts leaves, then you know that summer is near. So essentially he's saying, pay attention to the signs, okay? So in verse 37, he said, when the days of Noah come around again, then look for him. Okay, so that's what we're going to dig into right quick. All right, when he said that when the days of Noah come around again, then look for him. He's pretty close. All right, what were those days like? What were the days of Noah like? Okay, what we have to do is relate the Bible to the news. Y'all follow me? Relate the Bible to the news, because when we're talking about the days of Noah, we're actually in those days. Not that they're coming, they're here. Okay, so just like the fig tree is used as a sign, so is the news. So let's look at the days of Noah. Let's go to Genesis chapter 5, 28 through 32. Let's find out about the days of Noah and see how we can relate that to what's going on today.
Come when you're there. All right, this is the book of Genesis, chapter 5, verse 28. And Lamech lived 182 years and begat a son. And he called his name Noah, saying, this same shall comfort us concerning our work and toil of our hands, because of the ground which the Most High have cursed. And Lamech lived after he begot Noah 595 years and begot sons and daughters. And all the days of Lamech were 777 years, and he died. And Noah was 500 years old, and Noah begat Shem, Ham, and Japheth.
Okay, so now that we're officially into the days of Noah. Noah was born. Noah had 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Let's find out something else will happen. Let's go to Jubilees, the book of Jubilees, chapter 5, verse 1 through 8. That's Jubilees, chapter 5, verses 1 through 8. How many are there? Let's go find out. We're just going into some more detail. I mean, because you can read about the days of Noah in the scriptures, and it'll be on point, right? In the Bible, and it will be on point. But Jubilees and Jasher actually go into more detail and more specifics about what's actually taking place during those times. Con? All right, so the book of Jubilees, chapter 5, verses 1 through 8.
All right, this is the book of Jubilees, chapter 5, verse 1. And it came to pass, when the children of men began to multiply on the face of the earth, and daughters were born unto them, that the angels of the Most High saw them on a certain year of this Jubilee, that they were beautiful to look upon. And they took themselves wives of all whom they chose, and they bare unto them sons, and they were giants.
Okay, so these are the fallen angels, correct? The watchers that took it upon themselves to take the daughters of men and make babies. An abomination, okay, but keep going, verse 2.
Verse 2. And lawlessness increased on the earth, and all flesh corrupted his way.
Read that one more time, that opening statement.
And lawlessness increased on the earth, and all flesh corrupted its way.
Okay.
Alike, men and cattle, and beasts and birds, and everything that walks on the earth. All of them corrupted their ways and their orders, and they began to devour each other. And lawlessness increased on the earth, and every imagination of the thoughts of all men was thus evil continually. And the Most High looked upon the earth, and behold, it was corrupt, and all flesh had corrupted its orders, and all that were upon the earth had brought all manner of evil before his eyes. And he said, I shall destroy man and all flesh upon the face of the earth, which I have created. But Noah found grace before the eyes of the Most High. And against the angels whom he had sent upon the earth, he was exceedingly wroth. And he gave commandment to root them out of all their dominion. And he bade us to bind them in the depths of the earth. And behold, they are bound in the midst of them, and are kept separate. And against their sons went forth a commandment from before his face, that they should be smitten with the sword, and be removed from under heaven. And he said, my spirit will not always abide on man, for they also are flesh, and their days shall be 120 years.
Okay, jump back to verse 3. Just read verse 3 one more time.
Verse 3. And the Most High looked upon the earth, and behold, it was corrupt, and all flesh had corrupted its orders, and all that were upon the earth had brought all manner of evil before his eyes.
Okay, so we see that and we see clearly that all flesh had corrupted its orders, okay? So during this time, the fallen angels took upon themselves the daughters of men and began to procreate, okay? The offspring would become literally giants, okay? We also see that the lawlessness increased and all flesh corrupted its orders, okay? Now check this out. Now, at one point, I would personally argue that at least the animals didn't violate their gender-specific roles, okay? I was one that would always say, well, we should look at the animals, because you'll never see a male lion trying to get with another male lion. Ha, 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 ha. Wrong. Okay. When it says all flesh corrupted its orders, right? All flesh corrupted its orders, okay? I used to believe that until I saw same-gender animals mating with one another, okay? From monkeys to gorillas to rams, all flesh has corrupted its orders. Going to go into an article, and we're going to post the links of the articles in the lesson, okay? So you can actually go to the article for yourself and, view it for yourself. But this is from the BBC, okay? And the date of this article is 2/6/2015. All right? So, and the title of the article is, Are There Any Homosexual Animals? You want to read that? All read?
All right, are there any homosexual animals? During the winter mating season, competition is fierce for access to female Japanese macas, pronounced macaque, but it's not for the reason you might think. Males don't just have to compete with other males for access to females, they have to compete with females too.
Yeah. Read that one more time. They have to compete with males don't.
Males don't have to compete with other males for access to females. They have to compete with females too. That's because in some populations, homosexual behavior among females is not only common, it's the norm.
Okay, keep going.
To our eyes, these encounters look startlingly intimate. The females stare into each other's eyes while mating with macaques hardly ever do outside of sexual context. The pairings can even last a whole week, mounting hundreds of times. When they're not mating, the females stay close together to sleep and groom and defend each other from possible rivals.
Okay. As I said, the whole article, we're going to post a link to the whole article, but keep in mind what the scripture says, right? We just read what took place in the days of Noah, that all flesh, corrupted its orders, okay? Now, this article was posted in 2015. Now, the type of person that I am, I went ahead and looked on YouTube, and it's not just these macaques, this particular monkey. all flesh has corrupted its orders. The cowardly lion is that's just not a character off of the Wizard of Oz, okay? It's gay lions out there, okay? And I'm never could be more serious, okay? Birds, everything, all flesh has corrupted its orders. Days of Noah. Okay, let's jump. Let's go to Matthew chapter 21, 18 through 21. All right. It also lists several other, as I said, the article also lists several other species that have displayed that type of behavior. Okay, so let's check out some of the actions of Christ. All right, let's go to Matthew chapter 21, verse 18.
Con. All right, this is the book of Matthew, chapter 21, verse 18. Now in the morning, as he returned into the city, he hungered. And when he saw a fig tree in the way, he came to it and found nothing thereon but leaves only, and said unto it, Let no fruit grow on thee henceforward forever. And presently the fig tree withered away. And when the disciples saw it, they marveled, saying, How soon is the fig tree withered away? Jasher answered and said unto them, Verily I say unto you, if ye have faith and doubt not, ye shall not only do this which is done to the fig tree, but also if ye shall say unto this mountain, Be thou removed, and be thou cast into the sea, it shall be done.
All right, so what I want to point out right here was that the fig tree had leaves, so therefore it was supposed to what? Have fruit on there. Everything had corrupted its orders in the days of Noah. The plants, animals, obviously we did, right? So everything was off balance. Everything was off the rocker, okay, during that time. And if you look around, I mean, the crazy weather that we've been having, guess what? Days of Noah, right? Okay. So in the book of looking at the reason why, because that would be one of those examples that at least for me at one point in time, okay, why would he curse a fig tree? Well, it wasn't doing what it was supposed to do, right? The fig tree was supposed to have fruit on there if it had leaves. Plain and simple. There's no excuse for it. So what did Christ do? Cursed it and it withered away, right? So, like I said, the point that I wanted to bring out was that the entire earth is given over into the what? The hands of the wicked, right? So, we're going to go into 3rd Baruch and get some understanding of what actually took place when Job is saying the entire earth is given over into the hands of the wicked. All right? 3rd Baruch, chapter 4, verse 1 through 13. This is in the pseudographica. Did I say that right?
Pseudepigrapha.
Yeah, pseudepigrapha. All right, y'all understand. All right. 3rd Baruch, chapter 4, verses 1 through 13. Because and a lot of us may know this already, right? Or some of us may question, well, why would the Most High allow all this stuff to happen? The earth was given over into the hands of the wicked, period. Okay, so the wicked, because man fell, we sinned, we lost that dominion, right? So that gave permission to the wicked to do what? Do whatever they want to do. They had dominion, okay? Con? So let's find out about this other tree. Because a lot of us still think that the Most High planted 2 trees in the garden, and that's not true. Okay? Let's go.
All right, this is 3rd Baruch, chapter 4, verse 1. And I, Baruch, said, Behold, Lord, thou didst show me great and wonderful things, and now show me all things for the sake of the Lord. And the angel said to me, Come, let us proceed. And I proceeded with the angel from that place about 185 days' journey. And he showed me a plain and a serpent which appeared to be 200 plethra in length. And he showed me Hades, and its appearance was dark and abominable. And I said, Who is this dragon? And who is this monster around him? And the angel said, The dragon is he who eats the bodies of those who spend their life wickedly, and he is nourished by them. And this is Hades, which itself also closely resembles him, and that it also drinks about a cubit from the sea, which does not sink at all. Baruch said, And how does this happen? And the angel said, Hearken, the Most High Power made 360 rivers, of which the chief of all are Alpheus, Ibirus, and Gericus.
Gerica, yeah.
And because of these, the sea does not sink. And I said, I pray thee, show me which is the tree which led Adam astray. And the angel said,
Read that one more time.
and I pray thee, show me which is the tree which led Adam astray.
Keep going.
And the angel said to me, it is the vine which the angel Samuel planted, whereat the Most High Power was angry, and he cursed him and his plant, while also on this account he did not permit Adam to touch it, and therefore the devil, being envious, deceived him through his vine.
Okay, so we see that the Most High didn't plant that tree, correct? Okay, cool.
And I, Baruch, said, since also the vine has been the cause of such great evil, and is under judgment of the curse of the Most High, and was the destruction of the first created, how is it now so useful? And the angel said, thou askest aright. When the Most High caused the deluge upon earth and destroyed all flesh and 409,000 giants, and the water rose 15 cubits above the highest mountains, then the water entered into paradise and destroyed every flower, but it removed wholly without the bounds the shoot of the vine and cast it outside. And when the earth appeared out of the water, and Noah came out of the ark, he began to plant of the plants which he found. But he found also the shoot of the vine, and he took it, and was reasoning in himself, what then is it? And I came and spake to him, and of things concerning it. And he said, shall I plant it? Or what shall I do? Since Adam was destroyed because of it, let me not also meet with the anger of the Most High because of it.
Okay. So, like, as I said, or as the scripture said, it wasn't the Most High that planted that tree. Okay. And that just gives proof or gives validity of what we know about Job 9:24, that the earth is given over into the hands of who? The wicked. Okay. So when we see that the fallen angels was the one responsible for planting the tree. Okay. This led to the fall of Adam and Eve prior to the flood, and causing the creation to do the opposite of what it was created to do. Not just mankind, but everything, correct? All right. The collateral damage wasn't isolated to a single geographical location. It had a literal impact and effect on the entire earth. All right. Some may wonder, how did sin return after, if the flood was supposed to wash it away? Let's go to Jubilees chapter 10, verses 1 through 10. Again, filter everything through the Bible. It's the only way it's going to make sense. Okay? Jubilees chapter 10, verses 1 through 10.
All right, it's the book of Jubilees, chapter 10, verse 1. And in the third week of this Jubilee, the unclean demons began to lead astray the children of the sons of Noah, and to make to error and destroy them. And the sons of Noah came to Noah their father, and they told him concerning the demons which were leading astray and blinding and slaying his sons' sons. And he prayed before the Most High his power, and said, Ahiah, a power of the spirits of all flesh, who has shown mercy unto me, and has saved me and my sons from the waters of the flood, and has not caused me to perish as thou did the sons of perdition. For thy grace has been great towards me, and great has been thy mercy to my soul. Let thy grace be lifted up upon my sons, and let not wicked spirits rule over them, lest they should destroy them from the earth. But do thou bless me and my sons, that we may increase and multiply and replenish the earth. And thou knowest how thy watchers, the fathers of these spirits, acted in my day. And as for these spirits which are living, imprison them and hold them fast in the place of condemnation, and let them not bring destruction on the sons of thy servant, my power. For these are malignant and created in order to destroy. And let them not rule over the spirits of the living, for thou alone can exercise dominion over them. And let them not have power over the sons of the righteous, and henceforth and forevermore. And the Most High, our power, bade us to bind all. And the chief of the spirits, Mastema,
which is Satan, okay? And the chief of the spirits, or Satan, said what?
Came and said, Lord Creator, let some of them remain before me, and let them hearken to my voice, and do all that I shall say unto them. For if some of them are not left to me, I shall not be able to execute the power of my will on the sons of men.
Now, see, that was needed, right? Because we have to be proven, correct? Okay, just like the Most High proved Job and knew Job's heart and all that stuff, he still had to go through the fire. Okay, so just in that same manner, when Satan was presented before the Most High, well, look, have you considered my servant? Have you considered my servant Job? Satan had to do some things to allow Job to go through that, right? It's the same scenario that we see right here in Jubilees chapter 10. Y'all follow me? Okay, keep going.
For these are for corruption and leading astray before my judgment. For great is the wickedness of the sons of men.
Now keep in mind that it's still under whose control? Who did Mistema or who did Satan go before and ask permission? So it's still under his control. You understand? Okay, keep going.
And he said, let the 10th part of them remain before him, and let 9 parts descend into the place of condemnation.
What did I say, verse 10?
Yep.
Yeah, finish that.
And one of us he commanded that we should teach Noah all their medicines, for he knew that they would not walk in uprightness nor strive in righteousness.
You can stop right there. So we said in verse 9 it said, let a 10th part remain before him. The Most High allowed what? A 10th of the fall of the demons to stay behind. Okay, so that Satan could do his works, correct? Okay, so after Noah got off the boat, the demons began to plague the children of his sons. Okay, not Shem, Ham, and Japheth directly, but their kids. Okay, Noah prayed about the issue, but the Most High allowed Mistema or Satan to keep 10% to do evil on the earth by way of the wicked hearts of men. Okay, so the hearts of men had to possess that wickedness already. Cool? Y'all follow me? Okay. So, as lawlessness increased, so did the thoughts and the imaginations of mankind move towards evil. So let's get a few details about what was really going on exactly. Let's go to Jasher, the book of Jasher, chapter 4, 16 through 19. The book of Jasher, chapter 4, 16 through 19. As I said before, you can get enough out of the 66 books of the Bible in regards to the days of Noah. However, to get that detail, you can really find it in the book of Jubilees and the book of Jasher. Okay, and this is another way to prove the validity of the book of Jasher because it links up with what's going on now. Okay, so if Christ said, "Look for the days of Noah," right? So we need to find out more about the days of Noah. We see what's in the regular Bible, but to get that detail about the days of Noah, let's look in the book of Jasher and compare that to what's happening right now. Follow me? Jasher chapter 4, 16 through 19.
All right, it's the book of Jasher, chapter 4, verse 16. And all the sons of men departed from the ways of the Most High in those days, as they multiplied upon the face of the earth with sons and daughters, and they taught one another their evil practices, and they continued sinning against the Most High. And every man made unto himself a god, and they robbed and plundered every man his neighbor, as well as his relative, and they corrupted the earth, and the earth was filled with violence. And their judges and rulers went to the daughters of men and took their wives by force from their husbands according to their choice. And the sons of men in those days took from the cattle of the earth, the beasts of the field, and the fowls of the air, and taught the mixture of animals of one species with the other.
Y'all see that? Okay, keep going.
In order therewith to provoke the Most High. And the Most High saw the whole earth, and it was corrupt, for all flesh had corrupted his ways upon earth.
We see that again, right? All flesh had corrupted its ways upon the earth. Keep going.
All men and all animals.
And who?
And all animals.
All animals. God? Verse 19.
And the Most High said, I will blot out man that I created from the face of the earth. Yea, from man to the birds of the air, together with cattle and beasts that are in the field, for I repent that I made them.
See that? All flesh was what? Corrupt. Okay, so moving forward a few thousand years, right? In the so-called 2018, we could use the Holy Scriptures to see the following in chronological order. Go ahead, read that in red, man.
The liger. The liger is a hybrid offspring of a male lion, Panthera leo, and a female tiger, Panthera tigris. The liger has parents in the same genus but of different species. The liger is distinct from the similar hybrid tigon and is the largest of all known extant felines, which enjoy swimming, which is a characteristic of tigers, and are very sociable like lions. Notably, ligers typically grow larger than either parent species, unlike tigans. The history of lion-tiger hybrids date to at least the early 19th century.
So this is not 20th century technology. They were doing this back in the 1800s. Keep in mind, which proves the fact that they were doing it way back during the days prior to the flood. Okay? Now, little side note, tigers don't live in Africa. Okay? You may have some lions, a few small pocket of lions in Asia, certain parts of Asia, but tigers are not indigenous to the region of Africa. You understand? So how did a tiger and a lion get together? Man and all his wickedness. Okay? Go ahead, pick that up.
The history of the lion-tiger hybrids date to at least the early 19th century in India. Two liger cubs born in 1837
When?
born in 1837 were exhibited to King William IV and to his successor Queen Victoria on 14 December 1900 and on 31st of May 1901. Carl Hagenbeck wrote to zoologist James Kosser Ewart with details and photographs of ligers born at the Hagenbeck's Tier Park in Hamburg in 1897.
They were doing this in the 1800s. Y'all follow that? Okay, let's move to another one. Next.
All right, genetically modified organisms. Genetically modified foods, or GM foods, also known as genetically engineered foods, bioengineered foods, genetically modified organisms, or GMOs, are foods produced from organisms that have had changes introduced into their DNA using the methods of genetic engineering. Genetic engineering techniques allow for the introduction of new traits as well as greater control over traits than previous methods, such as selective breeding and mutation breeding. Commercial sale of genetically modified foods began in 1994 when Calgene first marketed its unsuccessful Flavor Savor delayed ripening tomato. Most food modifications have primarily focused on cash crops in high demand by farmers such as soybean, corn, canola, and cotton. Genetically modified crops have been engineered for resistance to pathogens and herbicides and for better nutrient profiles.
See, they want to paint the picture like we're doing this for y'all benefit, right? Now, we pretty much know about genetic or GMO foods, okay? But what I'm saying is, what I'm pointing out to you, just as it was in the days of Noah, what's coming? What's to follow? And all this happened in the days of Noah, correct? All right? So we see these things, and by us being so used to hearing about GMO foods, I'm talking about those of us who are awake, we're so used to hearing about GMO foods and things along those nature, we can tend to become complacent with this knowledge, right? Oh, I've been knew about that. Well, does your aunt, does your uncle, does your mother and father know about this? And not so much that it's not good to eat. What's coming next? The Messiah. Just as it was in the days of Noah. Okay? Let's move to the next one.
Okay. Dolly the sheep.
Y'all know about this one, right? I mean, everybody knows about this, but this is just evidence, okay, cross-genetic splicing. They did it. Okay? Keep going.
Dolly was cloned by Keith Campbell, Ian Wilmot, and colleagues at the Rosalind Institute, part of the University of Edinburgh, Scotland, and the biotechnology company PPL Therapeutics, based near Edinburgh. The funding for Dolly's cloning was provided by PPL Therapeutics and the Ministry of Agriculture. She was born on the 5th of July, 1996, and died from a progressive lung disease.
Now, how does a sheep get lung cancer? They normally die on the plate. She died of lung cancer. So keep going, man.
5 months before her 7th birthday. The disease was not considered related to her being a clone. She has been
you see how they try to cover that up, right? It's extremely rare that a sheep gets lung disease. Okay? So look at the source. Yeah, there you go. They probably crossed it with that. But go ahead.
The disease was not considered related to her being a clone. She has been called the world's most famous sheep by sources including BBC News and Scientific American.
Okay, you can stop right there. See, again, just as it was in the days of Noah, okay, so shall it be at the return of the Son of Man, Christ. Y'all got that? All right. Cross-genetic engineering is not a new technology. It's not new, okay? It's an abomination that started during the pre-flood era, all right? This plus other wicked behavior caused the Most High to do what? Flood the earth, correct? All right? So let's look at another sign. The days are lot. Let's go to Luke 17, 28 through 32. We got the days of Noah. We got the days of Lot. Come when y'all get there. Luke 17, 28 through 32.
All right, this is the book of Luke, chapter 17, verse 28. Likewise, also, as it was in the days of Lot, they did eat, they drank, they bought, they sold, they planted, they built. But the same day that Lot went out of Sodom, it rained fire and brimstone from heaven and destroyed them all. Even thus shall it be in the day when the Son of Man is revealed. In that day he which shall be upon the housetop, and his stuff in the house, let him not come down to take it away. And he that is in the field, let him likewise not return back. Remember Lot's wife.
Okay. Now, keep in mind, the days a lot and what was going on during that time. So let's get some detail. Let's go to the book of Jasher, chapter 18, 11 through 17. Now, the days of Noah were pretty bad. The days a lot, whew. Trouble. Days a lot. Jasher 18, 11 through 17.
All right, this is the book of Jasher, chapter 18, verse 11. In those days, all the people of Sodom and Gomorrah and of the whole 5 cities were exceedingly wicked and sinful against the Most High. And they provoked the Most High with their abominations. And they strengthened in acting abominably and scornfully before the Most High. And their wickedness and crimes were in those days great before the Most High. And they had in their land a very extensive valley, about half a day's walk. And in it there were fountains of water and a great deal of herbage surrounding the water. And all the people of Sodom and Gomorrah went there 4 times in the year with their wives and children and all belonging to them, and they rejoiced with timbrels and dances. And in the time of rejoicing they would all rise and lay hold of their neighbors' wives, and some the virgin daughters of their neighbors, and they enjoyed them. And each man saw his wife and daughter in the hands of his neighbor, and did not say a word. And
it sounds like a reality show now, right? Right? Swingers. A whole lot of stuff going on. Keep going, verse 15.
And they did so from morning to night.
All day long. You keep going.
And they afterward returned home, each man to his house, and each woman to her tent. So they always did 4 times in the year. Mm-hmm. Also, when a stranger came into their cities and brought goods which he had purchased with a view to dispose of there, the people of these cities would assemble, men, women, and children, young and old, and go to the man and take his goods by force, giving a little to each man until there was an end to all the goods of the owner which he had brought into the land. And if the owner of the goods quarreled with them, saying, "What is this work which you have done to me?" when they would approach to him one by one, and each would show him the little which he took, and taunt him, saying, "I only took that little which thou did give me." And when he heard this from them all, he would arise and go from them in sorrow and bitterness of soul, when they would all arise and go after him and drive him out of the city with great noise and tumult.
So wickedness obviously increased. This is just showing how wicked the hearts of men are, correct? Days a lot, but let's find out a little bit more. Let's go to Jasher 19, 1 through 7.
All right, this is the book of Jasher, chapter 19, verse 1. And the cities of Sodom had 4 judges to 4 cities, and these were their names: Sirach in the city of Sodom, Sharkad and Gomorrah, Zabnak and Admah, and Manan and Zeboim. And Eleazar, Abraham's servant, applied to them different names, and he converted Sirach to Shakra, and Sharkad to Shakrura, Zabnak to Kazobim, and Manan to Matzlot-Lodan. And by desire of their 4 judges, the people of Sodom and Gomorrah had beds erected in the streets of the cities, and if a man came to these places, they laid hold of him and
So they had, real quick, so they had their beds. I mean, they literally have beds in the land in the middle of the city. Okay? Now, if any man came to him, what happened?
And if a man came to these places, they laid hold of him and brought him to one of their beds, and by force made him to lie in them. And as he laid down, 3 men would stand at his head and 3 at his feet, and measure him by the length of the bed. And if the man was less in the bed, these 6 men would stretch him at each end. And when he cried out to them, they would not answer him. And if he was longer than the bed, they would draw together the 2 sides of the bed at each end until the man had reached the gates of death. And if he continued to cry out to them, they would answer him, saying, Thus shall it be done to a man that cometh into our land. And when men heard all these things that the people of the cities of Sodom did, they refrained from coming there.
Well, we haven't reached that part yet, so we got a little ways. It's like, nah, check this out. All right. How does that relate to the issues of today? Kill the lights.
A good Samaritan turned into bold attacker. That's what police say happened in the district. A man was sexually assaulted by another man he trusted to help him in his home. It happened in the 4500 block of 3rd Street. Fox 5's Evan Lambert is live with more. And Evan, what more have you learned about this tonight?
Well, Sarah, we were in that neighborhood tonight trying to learn more information, and we came across a man who says that on Saturday, a man approached him asking if he could help him carry groceries inside his apartment. At the time, he says he declined, and that man moved on. And now we learned just yesterday from police that a man used a similar tactic to get into someone's apartment and then sexually attack them. Ronald Dawson is the witness that I was referring to. He says that he was coming home from Walmart Saturday night around 9 in the 4500 block of 3rd Street Southeast. He says a man walking by on the sidewalk in front of his house asked him if he needed help carrying groceries. Dawson was with his daughter. The man also asked if she needed help, and Dawson and his daughter both declined. Dawson says that man continued down the sidewalk, walking right past the surveillance camera on the corner of an apartment building across the street. Then on Monday, police say a man who allowed a suspect to help him carry things inside his home on that same block reported that once inside, the suspect pulled his pants down and assaulted him. Here is how Dawson describes his encounter with the man he says sounds a lot like the assault suspect.
In the district.
The suspect somehow got into this large Capitol Hill home, but no obvious sign of break-in. Investigators believe from the moment he entered the house, the suspect intended to sexually assault one of the male occupants, although the victim did not know his attacker.
Shocking. It's very shocking.
It went down Sunday morning about 6 o'clock. A man asleep in a bedroom in this home suddenly woke up to the sight of another man armed with a gun standing over him.
It is extremely disturbing and concerning.
The suspect sexually assaulted the man, then burglarized the house and took off. Neighbors say several young professionals live in this home.
Police are investigating a bold and frightening sexual assault. It happened Friday night before dark. A man was forced into a van in the busy Columbia Heights area and sexually assaulted by a group of men. As Fox 5's chief investigative reporter Emily Miller tells us, this is the second crime with this pattern in less than a year.
On Friday at 8 p.m., a man was walking in this area of 14th Street Northwest when a suspect with a gun forced him into a white van. The male victim was kidnapped and sexually assaulted.
It represents a change in what's going on out here on the streets, that we have a group of people that are specifically looking to target, kidnap, and sexually assault men. That is a very, very profound event, and it's a change in what we're used to investigating.
The police are looking for 7 suspects. Only one can be specifically described as Hispanic. He's about 6'1" and in his 20s, short black curly hair. He was wearing an orange shirt and gray sweatpants and carrying the gun. Another suspect between 17 and 19, heavyset and with a light complexion. The other 5 suspects are all men. This bold sexual assault was remarkable for 2 reasons. Grabbing a man off a busy street like this, but also a man being gang raped. But this is the second time a crime just like this has happened in D.C. in just 7 months. At 10 o'clock in the morning last December 31st, a man was walking along this stretch of businesses in Southeast. A beige van pulled up and 4 men with guns grabbed him. They drove to another location where they raped him. The union president said it is very, very unusual to have 2 of these cases in less than a year.
It changes the game as to who needs to be cautious outside of the correction facility setting about sexual assault. I think before men didn't even think of the possibility of walking up and down the street and had to be guarded like we teach women to be guarded, but now that's a possibility.
Sergeant Burton said investigators are likely looking at all possible motives, including gang initiations, earlier jail activity, and a new breed of sexual predators on the streets of D.C.
So, yeah, let's go back to that verse in Jasher about the beds in the street again. That would be verse 3. The day's a lot. Now, we knew about Sodom and Gomorrah. We knew, what's in the Bible, right? But the detail gives you a better picture of what really took place. Con? Verse 3 again? What was that, 19? 19, verse 3. All right. Jasher chapter 19, verse 3.
All right, this is the book of Jasher, chapter 19, verse 3. And by desire of their 4 judges, the people of Sodom and Gomorrah had beds erected in the streets of the cities. And if a man came to these places, they laid hold of him and brought him to one of their beds, and by force made him to lie in them.
So, with that being said, and I purposely, there are many more articles, online articles in regards to this happening nationwide, but those incidents happened in the DMV, okay? I remember hearing about the one that happened in Southeast actually last year, okay? The Columbia Heights one I didn't know about, okay? And the other 2 stories, I knew nothing about that, but I knew it was going on. The days of Noah, the days of Lot. Y'all follow me? So, again, the whole purpose of this lesson is so we can relate what's in the news instead of being so dismissive about what's going on in the news. Because, look, Trump did say one thing correct. Fake news, it does exist, okay? But we'll use that, and we've been saying that for quite some time because the news does try to paint a picture to fit a different narrative, correct? But we can't ignore it because they do tell you what's happening. But we can look at the scriptures and say, wait a minute, didn't I just read that in the Bible? You follow me? So again, just in the same way that Christ used parables to explain the situation, because you just can't run up to somebody and say, in the days of Noah, they were raping men in the streets. How far would that conversation go? You understand? And then you add on top of that, but the Bible says this happened. But if we reverse that a little bit, look what just happened. Now let's look at what the scriptures. Link that up with the scriptures. Could you write the question down, Rich? All right, cool. So we could link that up with the scriptures and then be able to hopefully, prayerfully, Most High willing, better relate what's happening around us and see what time it is. Y'all follow me? Cool? Book of Jasher, 19, still in verse chapter 19, 11 through 22.
All right, this is the book of Jasher.
Real quick, just putting it out there again. It's a lot of information that we want to try to cover. So please hold the questions to the end, and let's get through this, and we'll answer the questions later. Cool? All right, let's go.
All right, it's the book of Jasher, chapter 19, verse 11. And in the course of time, Sarah sent Eleazar to Sodom to see Lot and inquire after his welfare. And Eleazar went to Sodom, and he met a man of Sodom fighting with a stranger. And the man of Sodom stripped the poor man of all his clothes and went away. And this poor man cried to Eleazar and supplicated his favor on account of what the man of Sodom had done to him. And he said to him, "Why do thou act thus to the poor man who came to thy land?" And the man of Sodom answered Eleazar, saying, "Is this man thy brother, or have the people of Sodom made thee a judge this day?" that thou speakest about this man? And Eleazar strove with the man of Sodom on account of the poor man. And when Eleazar approached to recover the poor man's clothes from the man of Sodom, he hastened and with a stone smote Eleazar in the forehead.
Look at it, how they are treating the righteous. Okay, Eleazar is a righteous man. Okay, that was Abraham's servant. Y'all follow me? Okay, keep going.
And the blood flowed copiously from Eleazar's forehead. And when the man saw the blood, he caught hold of Eleazar, saying, Give me my hire for having rid thee of this bad blood that was in thy forehead. For such
keep going, man.
For such is the custom and the law in our land. And Eleazar said to him, Thou hast wounded me and requires me to pay thee thy hire. And Eleazar would not hearken to the words of the man of Sodom. And the man laid hold of Eleazar and brought him to Shachra, the judge of Sodom, for judgment. And the man spoke to the judge, saying, I beseech thee, my lord, thus has this man done. For I smote him with a stone that the blood flowed from his forehead, and he is unwilling to give me my hire. And the judge said to Eleazar, This man speaketh true to thee. Give him his hire, for this is the custom in our land. And Eleazar heard the words of the judge.
Y'all see how backwards things are, right? But how far are we from that right now in today's times? We right there. Keep going.
And he lifted up a stone and smote the judge, and the stone struck on his forehead, and the blood flowed copiously from the forehead of the judge. And Eleazar said, If this then is the custom in your land, give thou unto this man what I should have given him. For this has been thy decision, thou did decree it. And Eleazar left the man of Sodom with the judge, and he went away.
So, again, there's a lot, right? They can't stand anything righteous. Okay, they deliberately and purposely went against the will of the Most High, correct? All right, the day's a lot. How does that relate to this particular part, relate to today? This was an article from the Christian Post from July 5th, 2013. Okay, it's titled, and we're going to put the link to the article in the lesson, so you can pull the whole thing up. But it's titled, Street Preachers Protesting Homosexuality Assaulted at Seattle Pride Fest. All right? You got it?
Yeah. Street preachers protesting homosexuality assaulted at Seattle's Pride Fest. 2 street preachers carrying signs that read Repent or Else and Jesus Saves from Sin were protesting against homosexuality at a gay pride event in Seattle, Washington on Sunday, and were physically attacked, punched, and kicked by attendees who warned them that they better leave or else.
Now, they're the first ones to always proclaim that they're being abused, right? Try bringing some righteousness in that situation. That spirit is highly aggressive, okay? Keep going.
Reuben Israel, who's been a street preacher for 33 years and is a member of Bible Believers, which has 74 chapters nationwide, told the Christian Post on Friday that he has encountered attacks similar to the one in Seattle. During a protest in Chicago, Illinois on June 30th, Israel described a scene in which counter-protesters rushed past police and slapped members of Bible Believers and even attempted to light his Bible on fire.
You see that? Now, I remember one time, but this was last summer, we were out there street preaching. It was when we were doing a Friday night. You were there. And we had the Bible, and some brothers came up smoking weed. Were you out there that night too? Yep. Yeah. So they were out there smoking weed. And one touched the Bible and said, well, let me see it. Let me show you something. Then, the brother that was with us, he stood firm on it. He said, nah, you can't touch my Bible. We need to defend. That was you. Yeah, you can't touch the Bible. That's the type of stand that we need to make. But the whole point is, there used to be a time, or I thought there used to be a time in our community, when someone is speaking about the word of God, you just automatically respect that. The last thing that you would see is that somebody comfortably comes up to you smoking blunts, and you're trying to explain the word of God to you. And I think one of them made a comment saying we use that in jail or something before to get high. Use the Bible papers. So that's the times that we're living in right now. There's no love for the righteous. There's a Noah. There's a lot. Y'all follow me? Okay. So let's go to Genesis chapter 19, 1 through 13.
Calm when you're there.
No love for the righteous. All right? Things to look for. Things to look at what's going on and how you can better relate. You know, it's now I'm only using the news segments that I pulled up, right? So, the internet is still out there. Y'all could look at anything, watch the news, pick up get notifications on your phone, read it. I guarantee, I'm almost certain that you could relate to something that's Bible related. Okay? Like I said, from whether it be the economy or whether it be the social conditions or whether it be whatever. You can pick it up what's in the Bible. You can follow it with what's in the Bible, and you can give a better understanding to someone who you may have some dialogue with. You understand? All right. Genesis 19, 1 through 13.
All right, this is the book of Genesis, chapter 19, verse 1. And there came two angels to Sodom at even, and Lot sat in the gate of Sodom. And Lot, seeing them, rose up to meet them, and he bowed himself with his face toward the ground. And he said, Behold, now, my lords, turn in, I pray you, unto your servant's house, and tarry all night, and wash your feet, and ye shall rise up early, and go on your ways. And they said, Nay, but we will abide in the street all night. And he pressed upon them greatly, and they turned in unto him, and entered into his house, and he made them a feast, and did bake unleavened bread, and they did eat. But before they lay down, the men of the city, even the men of Sodom, compassed the house round, both old and young, all the people from every quarter. And they called unto Lot, and said unto him, Where are the men which came into thee this night? Bring them out unto us, that we may know them. And Lot went out at the door unto them, and shut the door after him.
Now, y'all understand what that no means, right? It's not, hey, let me meet your friends. It wasn't that. That's that other no, okay? Keep going.
Verse 7. And said, I pray you, brethren, do not so wickedly. Behold, now I have 2 daughters which have not known man. Let me, I pray you, bring them out unto you, and do ye to them as is good in your eyes. Only unto these men do nothing, for therefore came they under the shadow of my roof.
Now, real quick on that. Now, I don't know if y'all remember in the first news segment where it said that the guy had a daughter, and they were they were trying to put the groceries in the house, right? They did nothing to the daughter, or this guy did nothing to the daughter, but sexually assaulted the man. What did we just read right here? Lot offered his daughters. What'd they say?
And they said, Stand back. And they said again, This one fellow came into sojourn, and he will needs be a judge. Now will we deal worse with thee than with them. And they pressed sore upon the man, even Lot, and came near to break the door. But the men put forth their hand and pulled Lot into the house to them, and shut to the door. And they smote the men that were at the door of the house with blindness, both small and great, so that they wearied themselves to find the door. And the men said unto Lot, Hast thou here any besides son-in-law, and thy sons and thy daughters, and whatsoever thou hast in the city, bring them out of this place. For we will destroy this place, because the cry of them is waxing great before the face of the Most High, and the Most High have sent us to destroy it.
Jubilees, chapter 16, 5 through 9. They didn't even want Lot's daughters. Whatever might seem right, and I'm not advocating any sister goes through an unfortunate event. What I am saying is that it's still natural for a man and a woman, correct? But we just saw in real-time events on the news, and we just confirmed that in the scriptures, that they didn't want Lot's daughter. The man that was assaulted didn't want, or the man that assaulted, he didn't want the other man's daughter. He wanted him. You understand? So, where are we? Jubilees 16, 5 through 9.
All right, this is the book of Jubilees, chapter 16, verse 5. And in this month, the Most High executed his judgments on Sodom and Gomorrah and Zeboim and all the region of the Jordan. And he burned them with fire and brimstone and destroyed them until this day, even as I have declared unto thee, all their works, that they are wicked and sinners exceedingly, and that they defile themselves and commit fornication in their flesh and work uncleanness on the earth. And in like manner, The Most High will execute judgment on the places where they have done according to the uncleanness of the Sodomites, like unto the judgment of Sodom. But Lot we saved, for Ahiah remembered Abraham and sent him out from the midst of the overthrow. And he and his daughters committed sin upon the earth, such as had not been on the earth since the days of Adam till this time. For the man lay with his daughters, and behold, it was commanded and engraven concerning all his seed on the heavenly tables, to remove them and root them out, and to execute judgment upon them like the judgment of Sodom, and to leave no seed of the man on earth on the day of condemnation.
Okay, so we pretty much now we should already have an understanding and with detail about the days of Noah and the days of Lot. Okay, again, I'm just showing you news articles that could better relate to it. All right, so we're gonna change directions a little bit. Same topic, right? Using what's going on in current events and relate that to what scriptures are talking about. All right, United States of Space, MAR. It's like no, but I don't know if y'all saw the episode of Dave Chappelle. But anyway, let's move on. Now, when I first got into this biblical understanding, right, it didn't take much for me to be convinced that we were the children of Israel, okay? The virgin birth lie was easy for me to understand, all right? The lies about Christmas and Easter was easy for me to understand, okay? Of course, Deuteronomy 28 in the slave ship, it was a no-brainer, okay? It all made logical sense, okay? And it was like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm an Israelite, because, yeah, the Bible speaking to Israel, Moses, predominantly Hebrews, slave ship, hey, that's me, right? It was all crystal clear, all right? Until I heard a lesson when Elder Ricard said that, and I quote, that the only reason that they're going into space is to war with Christ, okay? When he returns, to war with Christ when he returns, and the other planets ain't real. That one threw me for a little loop, okay? It threw me off a little bit, okay? Because, I mean, hold up, wait a minute, Elder. I can feel you on the slave ship, but now we're talking about spaceships. All right, so how does that relate to where we are and who we are? Okay, my mind couldn't wrap around that concept. All right, not long before I got into this understanding, I was just looking into the so-called other planets. Right, I used to have this app on my phone at the time. It was a Google app where it could, you hold it up to the sky and it would map out all the so-called planets, and it would tell you when the so-called planets were aligned, right? So that's what I was literally into a year before, prior to me getting into this truth, all right? So getting into this whole thing about the planets and space and, they getting back up into space to war with Christ, that was a little bit hard for me to understand at first, all right? So, again, you could pretty much identify where we are, current events, with what's going on in the scriptures. Space, right? The final frontier. No truer words could have ever been spoken now that I have an understanding of what the scriptures are actually talking about, all right? So, but only this time around, there would be no Starship Enterprise, right? There would be no Captain Kirk. There would be no Mr. Spock, all right? Let's get some understanding and use the Bible to better relate to what's going on, because we understand that our president made an announcement not too long ago regarding space, okay? Now, again, we're trying to reach the masses by relating current events to biblical prophecy. So in 1986, NASA attempts to launch what? The Space Shuttle Challenger, all right? This particular launch had Christia McCullough on board, okay, an 8th grade history teacher. This launch stands out to me because I was in the 6th grade when this happened. It stands out to me because they assembled all the kids to watch this launching of a teacher going up in space. I was 11, and what I saw, I would never forget, because every student in the cafeteria was shocked and awed after they saw the following.
T-minus 21 seconds, and the solid rocket booster engine gimbal now underway. T-minus 15 seconds. T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. We have main engine start. 4, 3, 2, 1, and liftoff. liftoff of the 25th Space Shuttle mission, and it has cleared the tower.
Now controlling. Roger, roll, Challenger. Good roll program confirmed. Challenger now heading down range. Engines beginning throttling down now at 94%. Normal throttles for most of the flight, 104%. We'll throttle down to 65% shortly. Engines at 65%. 3 engines running normally. 3 good fuel cells. 3 good APUs. Velocity 2,257 feet per second. Altitude 4.3 nautical miles. Downrange distance 3 nautical miles.
So the 25th Space Shuttle mission is now on the way after more delays than NASA cares to count. This morning, it looked as though they were not going to be able to get off.
1 minute, 15 seconds. Velocity 2,900 feet per second. Altitude 9 nautical miles. Downrange distance 7 nautical miles.
Looks like a couple of the solid rocket boosters blew away from the side of the shuttle in an explosion.
Flight controllers here looking very carefully at the situation. Obviously a major malfunction. We have no downlink.
Completely, hit them like, vaporized, gone. All right. Now, again, that was a tragic for me because I was 11 watching this. And after hearing about all the other so-called space shuttle missions and all that other stuff, and they'll paint the picture that, it's a good thing that they're going up in space. Now, I do want to say right quick that some people may doubt that the space did they actually go up in space and all that stuff. We have to lean towards what the scriptures and the prophecy says, okay? They've been warring against the Most High in space since the days of Nimrod, okay? And they've always wanted to war against God. Now, whether or not they landed on the moon or anything like that, that's arguable, debatable. Now, we don't have the time to really go into that, but that's not what I really wanted to get into. What I want to get into is that we have to rely on what the scripture says to better relate to what's going on today. Now, we just saw that video, right? Okay, and I'm not mocking the death of anyone because it's a possibility that those astronauts thought that they were possibly doing a good thing. That wine of Babylon is strong. It'll make you believe that wicked is good, okay? Possibly, all right? Let's put this in a proper perspective. Let's go to Genesis chapter 1, 26 through 30.
All right, this is the book of Genesis, chapter 1, verse 26. And the Most High said, "Let us make man in our image after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth."
And over what?
And over all the earth.
Okay, keep going.
And over every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth.
Upon the what?
That creepeth upon the earth.
Okay, verse 27.
So the Most High created man in his own image. In the image of the Most High created he him. Male and female created he them. And Ahiah blessed them. And the Most High said unto them, "Be fruitful and multiply, and replenish the earth."
Replenish the what?
And replenish the earth.
Keep going.
And subdue it. And have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over every living thing that moveth upon the earth.
Okay.
And the Most High said, "Behold, I have given you every herb bearing seed which is upon the face of all the earth, and every tree in the which is the fruit of a tree yielding seed. To you it shall be for meat, and to every beast of the earth, and to every fowl of the air, and to everything that creepeth upon the earth, wherein there is life, I have given every green herb for meat."
Okay, verse 30.
And it was so.
Verse 30.
That was verse 30.
That was 33?
Yep, and it was 31.
Oh, my bad. 31.
All right, verse 31. And the Most High saw everything that he had made, and behold, it was very good. And the evening and the morning were the sixth day.
Okay. We see that the Most High gave us dominion over what? The earth. The earth, okay? The word of the Most High is clear, okay? He intended for man to have dominion over the earth. So what is the reason for going into space? Okay? To try to war with the Messiah. When Elder Ricard made that statement, you know, that's the only reason why they're going up in, you know, going into space. Now it makes sense. Because Christ is going to come from where? Okay? The heavens, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, which is what? Space. Okay, so when the introduction of Star Trek where it says space, the final frontier, as I said before, they ain't never lied about that. That's it for them. Okay, because what they're trying to do up there is wicked. We have no business up there. None whatsoever. Okay? Where am I? Let's see. So, like I said before, he intended the man to have dominion over the earth, okay? So what's the reason for going up in space? Well, to execute their wickedness, okay? Is it really about exploring other planets like they want to portray? Okay, no. The other planets really exist? No. All right? If the planet Mars was named after a Roman god, then what was the name before the founding of Rome? Okay, what was it called before that? Nobody knows. All right? So why are all these so-called planets named after Roman gods? These are questions that we can ask, you know, that we can bring to the attention of our loved ones. So what's really going on in space? Mars don't exist, y'all. Jupiter don't exist. Pluto don't exist. None of that stuff is real. Nobody's ever been there. Okay? They actually have, I might have that listed, so we'll probably get to that later. If not, I'll make that point. Let's go to Jeremiah chapter 10. Verses 1 and 2.
All right, this is the book of Jeremiah, chapter 10, verse 1. Hear ye the word which the Most High speaketh unto you, O house of Israel. Thus saith the Most High, learn not the way of the heathen, and be not dismayed at the signs of heaven.
At the signs of what?
At the signs of heaven.
At the signs of who? Heaven. Which is what? Space. Okay, keep going.
For the heathen are dismayed at them.
The heathen are dismayed at them, okay? It says that the other nations are dismayed at the signs of heaven, all right? That means that they are alarmed by them. It makes them anxious, right? All right, so going to an article that's in the Diplomat that was printed just a couple of weeks ago. It's an online article called it's an online publication called the Diplomat, all right? That might have been the picture that was the picture online. So okay, that'll stay. He looking real goofy too, man. Go ahead, John.
All right.
Pick it up on June 18th.
All right, on June 18th, 2018, Trump proposed the establishment of the United States Space Force as the sixth branch of the U.S. Armed Forces.
Y'all see that? They are serious. Okay? They are dead serious. Keep going.
The announcement took the U.S. Air Force by surprise because it already has its own Air Force Space Command and believed that they were capable of defending space despite criticisms to the contrary.
So with that being said, right, it says that the United States Air Force, that announcement took the Air Force by surprise because they already what? They already had something in play for space. You follow me? So, keep going.
Most arguments against the Space Force thought that Trump wrongly announced the creation of a Space Force as a separate and equal sixth branch of the U.S. military. What he really meant to announce was the creation of a Space Corps, or Space Guard, within the Department of the Air Force focused on space but not independent.
Keep going.
Nothing can be further from the truth. In his announcement, he is clear that he wants the Pentagon to start working toward establishing a separate and independent Space Force. Trump's announcement on June 18th has now shifted from whether such a force is required to how it should be organized institutionally for the mission goals it will be mandated to accomplish.
Okay. So why are they so anxious about getting up into space? Y'all feel me? Y'all follow me? Okay? It's not to explore other planets, like I said, okay? There's no evidence of them ever existing, okay? All of those names are what? Roman gods that they worship and practice astrology, okay? Okay? So that actually dates back to ancient Babylon. Worshiping of stars dates back to ancient Babylon. So why are they so anxious about getting into space? Let's go to another article from on CNN, iReport, that was published on 9/25/2010.
All right. The mission of the 595th Space Group is to enhance and provide confidence in Air Force warfighting capabilities through advanced training, education, tactics, development, and operational testing. 595 SG is composed of the 17th Test Squadron, 14th Test Squadron as a reserve component, the 576th Flight Test Squadron, the 527th Space Aggressor Squadron, the 26th Space Aggressor Squadron as a reserve component, the Space Range Management Office, and the Space Operations School.
Keep in mind that this was in 2010, 8 years ago, 8 years before Trump made the announcement. Okay? Keep going.
The mission of the 17th Test Squadron is to validate and enhance warfighter
Say what?
Is to validate and enhance warfighter capabilities through testing and evaluation of space systems. They're responsible for planning, executing, and reporting on all force development, evaluation, tactics, and concepts testing, and command-directed testing of Air Force Space Command space assets. They also determine the effectiveness and suitability of operational space systems. The mission of the 14th Test Squadron is to test, evaluate, and exploit aerospace systems to educate and train U.S. and allied warfighters.
Who?
To educate and train U.S. and allied warfighters on combat support capabilities, tactics, and vulnerabilities. They are a U.S. Air Force Reserve Squadron that tests for all four space mission areas: space control, space forces support, force enhancement, and force application.
Okay. That's why they're in space. To war against the coming Messiah. Point blank. Period. That's why they're in space. There's no other reason for them to be up there. Just like they did in the Tower of Babel when they shot their arrows. Where? In space. Okay? It's the same thing right now. Y'all follow me? Okay, so that's why, again, you can relate to what's going on in the news to what the scriptures say, all right? So, real quick point I want to make is that, okay, who would have thought that, because it was through the administration of Eisenhower and Kennedy. Kennedy especially, nobody really talks about the wickedness of the Kennedy administration, okay? Because he was a young dude, and it seems like he showed sympathy to our cause as a people, right? But we don't look at the war that was in his heart. He was the one that, it was Eisenhower's idea, but it was Kennedy that implemented NASA to fight against our coming Savior. Now that I know what the scriptures are saying, I take great offense to that. Because here I was thinking that this was a good dude, and he want to fight my brother. You know? So, looking at what's going on in the news and comparing that to what the scriptures are actually saying, okay? So let's go to Jasher chapter 9, 20 through 31.
All right, this is the book of Jasher, chapter 9, verse 20. And King Nimrod reigned securely, and all the earth was under his control, and all the earth was of one tongue and words of union. And all the princes of Nimrod and his great men took counsel together, put Mizraim, Cush, and Canaan with their families, and they said to each other, "Come, let us build ourselves a city, and in it a strong tower, and its top reaching heaven, and we will make ourselves famed, so that we may reign upon the whole world, in order that the evil of our enemies may cease from us, that we may reign mightily over them, and that we may not become scattered over the earth on account of their wars."
Jump down to verse 24.
Verse 24. And they began to make bricks and burn fires to build the city and the tower that they had imagined to complete. And the building of the tower was unto them a transgression and a sin, and they began to build it. And while they were building against the Most High power of heaven,
Say what?
And while they were building against the Most High power of heaven, they imagined in their hearts to war against him and to ascend into heaven.
And to do what?
And to ascend into heaven.
And to ascend into the heavens. Y'all see that, right? Keep going.
And all these people and all the families divided themselves in three parts. The first said, we will ascend into heaven and fight against him. The second said, we will ascend to heaven and place our own gods there and serve them. And the third part said, we will ascend to heaven and smite him with bows and spears. And the Most High knew all their works and all their evil thoughts. And he saw the city and the tower which they were building. And when they were building, they built themselves a great city and a very high and strong tower. And on account of its heights, the mortar and bricks did not reach the builders in their ascent to it, until those who went up had completed a full year. And after that, they reached to the builders and gave them the mortar and the bricks. Thus was it done daily. And behold, these ascended and others descended the whole day. And if a brick should fall from their hands and get broken, they would all weep over it. And if a man fell and died, none of them would look at him. And the Most High knew their thoughts. And it came to pass, when they were building, they cast the arrows toward the heavens, and all the arrows fell upon them, filled with blood. And when they saw them, they said to each other, surely we have slain all those that are in heaven.
See, and we brought this out, and we brought this point out on the 4th of July because it's like that. What you see when they launching those fireworks, that's a mockery of that war. It has nothing to do with the celebration of independence. They're mocking or doing a replica of the war that they did during the Tower of Babel, shooting their rockets into space or shooting the fireworks into space. Okay, and it's a war. It's a mock war against the Most High. Same thing now. They're actually testing. They're sending ICBMs in space right now. Right at this very moment, intercontinental ballistic missiles, right now. Okay, so nothing is new under the sun. That's how you can relate to what's happening. All right, because it lines up with what the scripture says. Keep going.
Verse 30, for this was from the Most High in order to cause them to error and in order to destroy them from off the face of the earth, from off the face of the ground. And they built the tower and the city, and they did this thing daily until many days and years were elapsed.
Okay, so just like the spirit that controlled Nimrod and told him to war against the Most High, it told Eisenhower and JFK to establish NASA so they could have a defense system in place for someone that promised to return from the heavens. Now, who promised to return from the heavens? All right, let's find out a couple of things. Let's go to Acts chapter 1, 9 through 11. Let's find out who ascended.
All right, this is the book of Acts, chapter 1, verse 9. And when he had spoken these things while they beheld, he was taken up, and a cloud received him out of their sight. And while they looked steadfastly toward heaven as he went up, behold, two men stood by them in white apparel, which also said, Ye men of Galilee, why stand ye gazing up into heaven? This same Yeshua which is taken up from you into heaven shall so come in like manner as ye have seen him go into heaven.
So he's coming back the same way he went up, right? From the heavens, right? AKA what? Space. So why are they in space right now? To war against the coming Messiah. Okay? Let's go to Matthew chapter 24, 27 through 31. Keep going.
All right, this is the book of Matthew, chapter 24, verse 27. For as the lightning cometh out of the east and shineth even unto the west, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. For wheresoever the carcass is, there will the eagles be gathered together. Immediately after the tribulation of those days shall the sun be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light, and the stars shall fall from heaven, and the powers of the heaven shall be shaken. And then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven, and then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn.
Where's the Son of Man? And where?
In heaven.
Heavens. Space. Keep going.
And then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn, and they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. And he shall send his angels with a great sound of a trumpet, and they shall gather together his elect from the four winds, from one end of heaven to the other.
Okay, let's go to Revelation 19, 11 through 19. Let's go.
All right, this is the book of Revelation, chapter 19, verse 11. And I saw heaven open, and behold, a white horse, and he that sat upon him was called Faithful and True, and in righteousness he do judge and make war. His eyes were as a flame of fire, and on his head were many crowns, and he had a name written that no man knew but he himself. And he was clothed with a vesture dipped in blood, and his name is called the Word of the Most High. And the armies which were in heaven followed him upon white horses.
Where were they?
And the armies which were in heaven followed him upon white horses, clothed in fine linen, white and clean. And out of his mouth goeth a sharp sword, that with it he should smite the nations, and he shall rule them with a rod of iron, and he treadeth the winepress of the fierceness and wrath of almighty power. And he hath on his vesture and on his thigh a name written, King of Kings and Lord of Lords. And I saw an angel standing in the sun, and he cried with a loud voice, saying to all the fowls that fly in the midst of heaven, come and gather yourselves together unto the supper of the great power, that ye may eat the flesh of kings, and the flesh of captains, and the flesh of mighty men, and the flesh of horses.
So, real quick, so it's prophesied that the flesh of kings will be eaten by the birds. Now, what king would really want that? Of the earth. What king on the earth would really want to experience that? So again, they're in space to try to prevent this from happening. They're not going to succeed, obviously. However, it is their attempt, because when the scriptures say that Satan has deceived the whole world, a lot of people actually believe the lie. Let's go up in heaven and war against him. We got technology on our side. That's their whole purpose. You follow me? Keep going.
In the flesh of horses, and of them that sit on them, in the flesh of all men, both free and bond, both small and great. And I saw the beast and the kings of the earth and their armies gathered together to make war against him that sat on the horse and against his army.
Okay, so when the Messiah returns, right, he's not coming back. He's coming from the heavens, a.k.a. space, and he's not coming back for love, hugs, and kisses. We should already know that, okay? So, close this segment out of the United States of Space with Obadiah 1 through 4. And we all familiar with these scriptures. However, auntie and uncle don't know, okay? They stopped doing the space shuttle program. Now they just have independent companies sending rockets into space at their leisure. It's the same mission. It's the same purpose, okay? So the only reason that they're doing it is to set up shop against who? That's it. Keep going. Oh, Obadiah, y'all know, y'all there? Obadiah?
All right, it's the book of Obadiah, chapter 1, verse 1. The vision of Obadiah. Thus saith the Most High Power concerning Edom. We have heard a rumor from the Most High, and an ambassador is sent among the heathen. Arise ye, and let us rise up against her in battle. Behold, I have made thee small among the heathen. Thou art greatly despised. The pride of thine heart hath deceived thee, thou that dwelleth in the clefts of the rock, whose habitation is high, that saith in his heart, who shall bring me down to the ground? Though thou exalt thyself as the eagle, and though thou set thy nest among the stars.
Where are the stars? Okay. Keep going.
Thence will I bring thee down, saith the Most High.
Now, that's what we saw with the Challenger video. Back in 2002, another shuttle was trying to re-enter the Earth atmosphere. Didn't make it. Okay. At the start of the NASA program, a lot of those rockets didn't make it. No, they only know for sure what type of wickedness that they were trying to launch into the heavens at that time. However, the Most High wasn't going to allow it to happen. Y'all follow me? Now, as we read in Jubilees, a tenth has to be left for Satan to do his bidding, right? So some did go up there, and they did set up some things, but it's not enough to prevail against anything. What I'm saying is that we have the truth in front of us, and we can relate that to what's going on. Y'all follow me still? Cool? All right, let's move on. We got time. Yeah, we got time. We got time. Last segment. United States of Trump. Look, ever since, and y'all already know this, ever since that guy took office, man, you could feel a presence of wickedness just floating around the air. It's just heavy, right? And I'm not trying to give too much. Well, I don't want to sound like I'm praising that his attempts or anything like that. But what I am saying is that dude right there, he's and I said this before, he's the living embodiment of the American spirit. And that's not a compliment, okay? How erratic and sporadic and how wicked and evil that you see him acting, from our perspective, that's how America has always been. It's just new to the other nations because they're in shock and, oh, how could he do this? How could it? America's always been like that. And he is America. Y'all follow me? Okay, so now if Trump was listening to this lesson, he would probably view that as being a compliment. That's how arrogant he is, right? So let's examine what the American spirit really is and compare that to the actions of Trump and every other president that sat in the White House. It's just something dark that happens when they sit in that office. If y'all didn't know, it's a pentagram in the middle of D.C. Pentagrams have always been used to invoke demonic spirits. The apex, or the point of that pentagram, points directly at the White House. It's a power source. And you could see certain things, and I noticed this some time ago, every president that took office, the day they went in and how much they've aged, whether it be a 4-year term or an 8-year term, they've aged tremendously, okay? It's a lot of wicked decisions that's being channeled through 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. You follow me? So, again, let's examine this so-called what this American spirit really is and compare it to the actions of Trump, okay? We're going to go to an article or a blog. Didn't have the year that this was put online, but it's from, it's titled Indian Wars and Broken Treaties. It's from the African American Policy Forum, okay? Like I said, I got the links. The links will be listed in the video. Let's go. Broken Treaties.
Broken treaties. The United States has a long history in which it abused its relative power over other populations, and its relations with Native Americans were no different in this regard. The United States frequently signed and committed itself to treaties with Native Americans that they repeatedly broke, a practice that has been present in American policy since its inception. For instance, under the Removal Act of 1830, the U.S. government bought land from Native Americans east of the Mississippi and offered to give them land in the west that would be theirs forever. However, this treaty was not honored by the U.S. government, as white travelers and traders were allowed to settle in this land that had recently been given to Native Americans.
Okay, so every presidential administration in the 18th and 19th centuries broke peace treaties that were established by the U.S. government. Y'all know that, right? Okay, so in the book of Daniel, chapter 7, verse 25, we don't have to go there. We are familiar with it, but just listed it in case y'all do want to go there. Daniel chapter 7, verse 25. It said he has a vision of a future place that will speak great things against the Most High. And do what? Because the brother went over this last week. Will wear out the saints of the Most High, okay? And to think to change times and laws, okay? That place is America, okay? Even though you don't see America, that word America in the Bible, that place is the Americas, okay? Namely, the mainland America, all right? Broken treaties continue. Go ahead.
All right, broken treaties continued. In the 19th century, American farmers stole more and more Cherokee-owned land in Georgia and Tennessee. Conflict between natives and settlers reached crisis levels. The Cherokees responded by filing a lawsuit in the United States Supreme Court.
So they didn't go to war. They tried to play it by their game, okay? They like to sue. They got this court system established. Let's try it their way, okay? Keep going.
Chief Justice John Marshall ruled that the Cherokees were the undisputed possessors of the soil, and that state interference with that right was unconstitutional.
We won. All right, let's find out what happened.
President Jackson, however, refused to enforce the ruling. With the law being ignored, state and federal authorities rounded up the Cherokees and deported them to the west on what came to be known as the Trail of Tears.
Change times and laws. We won by their standards. We went through their court system. But the president decided to do what? However, refused to enforce the ruling. Okay? Changed what we just, in Daniel chapter 7, verse 25. Think to change what? Times and laws. Okay? That's, again, part of that American spirit, right? So, even years after the broken treaties, the U.S. government still found ways to shortchange and not fulfill the promises to the so-called Native Americans, right? In two court decisions in 1902 and in 1903, the Supreme Court held that Congress has the power to modify or terminate Native American treaties without the Native Americans' consent. So, this shows the true intent of the American spirit. I want to paint a picture right quick. Let's go to Psalms chapter 55, 2 through 13.
All right. This is the book of Psalms, chapter 55, verse 2. Attend unto me and hear me. I mourn in my complaint and make a noise because of the voice of the enemy, because of the oppression of the wicked. For they cast iniquity upon me, and in wrath they hate me. My heart is sore pain within me, and the terrors of death are fallen upon me. Fearfulness and trembling are come upon me, and horror hath overwhelmed me. And I said, Oh, that I had wings like a dove, for then would I fly away and be at rest. Lo, then would I wander far off and remain in the wilderness, Selah. I would hasten my escape from the windy storm and tempest. Destroy, O Lord, and divide their tongues, for I have seen violence and strife in the city. Day and night they go about it upon the walls thereof. Mischief also and sorrow are in the midst of it. Wickedness is in the midst thereof. Deceit and guile depart not from her streets. For it was not an enemy that reproached me, then I could have borne it. Neither was it he that hated me that did magnify himself against me. Then I would have hid myself from him. But it was thou, a man mine equal, my guide, and mine acquaintance.
Okay, so check this out. I'm going somewhere with this, right? King David wrote this when he was on the run from Saul. Okay, so although Saul was king, he and David were still brothers by way of Jacob. You follow him? Roundabout way, all right? So, what I wanted to point out was that when Israel didn't have the answer for Goliath, who stepped up? It was David, right? Okay. But because Saul was jealous and had a wicked heart, he wanted to kill David, okay? Saul forgot and ignored that all that David had done. You understand? Saul forgot all that David had done. Okay. Now look at how the so-called Native Americans were treated by the settlers. Okay. If it wasn't for them, every single settler in the early times in the 1600s would have died off through plague and disease. They forgot about that, right? Forgot all about that. Now that they got a little bit more guns, a little bit more power, they have established themselves more. What happened? Okay. Y'all understand? That's the American spirit. But instead of showing gratitude for their generosity, they kept coming literally by the boatloads under the guise of peace, but expanding their territory by force. The American spirit is greedy and disloyal. The American spirit is greedy and disloyal. Let's go to Psalms 55, 14 through 23.
All right, this is the book of Psalms, chapter 55, verse 14. We took sweet counsel together and walked unto the house of the Most High in company. Let death seize upon them, and let them go down quick into hell. For wickedness is in their dwellings and among them. As for me, I will call upon the Most High, and the Most High shall save me. Evening and morning and at noon will I pray and cry aloud, and he shall hear my voice. He hath delivered my soul in peace from the battle that was against me, for there were many with me. Ahiah shall hear and afflict them, even he that abideth of old, Selah. Because they have no changes, therefore they fear not the Most High. He hath put forth his hands against such as be at peace with him. He hath broken his covenant. The words of his mouth were smoother than butter, but war was in his heart.
That's the American spirit. That's the spirit behind every politician, whatever you want to call them. You understand? Their words are smooth like butter, but war is in their heart. See, give you an example. President number 44, Obama. On one side, speaks really well, knows how to pander to our needs, right? But he launched more drone strikes and destabilized just about every single country in the Arab Spring happened under his watch. He took photo ops as soon as he took office as president with Muammar Gaddafi. But what did he do to him? Muammar Gaddafi, and I'm not saying that judgment comes, so I'm not saying that he was a great dude, but what I am saying is that because of the greed of America, and because what Muammar Gaddafi was about to do was to destabilize the economic structure of America. He was going to destroy the U.S. dollar. They killed him. And they paint this picture that he was some tyrant. He had been president for 40 years over there. Now, I know the Libyans treated us unfairly. However, what I'm saying is that his people saw no problem with it overall. Then they paint the picture that he was evil and wicked. He had to go. Who's America to say that somebody's evil and wicked? What did they do to us? Who are they to say that this is how you bring justice across the world? How can America actually say those words?
Peace through war.
But they extend the olive branch with one hand and the machete with the other. That's the American spirit. Read verse 21 again.
Verse 21. The words of his mouth were smoother than butter, but war was in his heart. His words were softer than oil, yet were they drawn swords. Cast thy burden upon the Most High, and he shall sustain thee. He shall never suffer the righteous to be moved. But thou, O Ahiah, shalt bring them down into the pit of destruction. Bloody and deceitful men shall not live out half their days, but I will trust in thee.
Okay, so that American spirit is Satan. Point blank. That's why they have a pentagram in the middle of the city. Who else are they invoking? You follow me? All of that stuff. That 5-pointed star, we went over that 4th of July. That's Satan. Those are demons. You follow me? So, as I said before, something really dark has to take place in the White House. America has the ability to tell the naive exactly what they want to hear, but no interest in fulfilling the promise, fulfilling the agreements. Every politician has the ability to tell the naive exactly what they want to hear, but war is in their heart. Words smooth like butter. What? But war is in their heart. We all, at one point in time, believed that we can coexist peacefully here in America. I know I did, We believe that. However, no evidence behind it, okay? I can't stand as a believer in the Bible in America. They won't allow you to. Oh, yeah, you good with the Bible. You can worship your God. Okay, I can. Well, so I'm against homosexuality. Well, no, away from me. They don't want it, or I'm against this political party, or I'm against this system, or I'm against that. Well, you can't have those views here in America. That goes against what we want to do. You understand? That whole thing about democracy, if it's a government set up for the people, well, your heart is deceitfully wicked. That's scripture. Right? So if I got a government that's set up based off of the desires of my heart, then the whole government is wicked. So if I filter it through the scriptures, that sets my standard. Right? But you can't do that here in America. They say that a lot of people believe that this was a godly country. No, far from it. The founding fathers weren't Christian. And if they were godly, it was the God of hell. Follow me? War is in their heart. So, I'm going to hold off on this last one, right? But it's going into, well, you know what? I'll go into it, but I'll just paraphrase. It's going into this so-called deal with Iran, okay? And what actually took place on May 8th, when he broke that deal. See, nobody can argue the fact that the Iranians today are the Persians of yesterday. So the Persians of yesterday are being stirred up, right? As it was prophesied. So when Trump imposed those sanctions and broke the nuclear deal, Iran they were complying with it. It was set up by the Obama administration. I'm not saying Obama was a good dude or anything like that. What I am saying is that he set up something that prevented Iran from developing nuclear missiles. They originally had a nuclear program so they could have power. It was a source of power for them, okay? And the enriched uranium could be used to develop missiles, but there was no proof that they did that. America said, well, we don't want you doing that at all, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to impose sanctions until you comply. Iran said, okay, we comply. Well, what you got on the table? America said, well, we'll give you 3.5, and I'm paraphrasing from the articles, right? America said that we'll give you $3.5 million so you can develop better technologies to build other power sources, right, outside of nuclear energy. And on top of that, we will purchase from you on an annual basis $54 million in crude, okay? The condition is shut down your nuclear program. Iran said, okay. Words move like butter. War is in their heart. This guy comes into office and says, well, it's a bad deal, and we're going to shut it down. Well, if the deal is shut down, they impose sanctions. So now you're cutting off a nation's money supply. You're messing with its pockets. Now, $3.5 million might not seem much on this side, but that's long money over there. You understand? Right now, Iran is rioting in the streets. The sanctions are real. You understand? So when the scriptures say that I will raise up the Medes or I will stir up the Medes, well, something has to take place to agitate them to the point of being stirred up. That guy. Him. Y'all follow me? Now, we all know what the scriptures say in regards to Iran going against a land and destroy them, the arrows of the Medes. Well, if it was done in ancient times and ain't nothing new under the sun, guess what's going to happen to this other land? That other land is America. This guy. Now, under his administration, they have, what's his name, John Bolton. He made a speech not too long ago. You can pull it up, write this name down, John Bolton. He's a security advisor for, NSA advisor for Trump. And he's made a speech saying that, I forgot where he was when he was initially made the speech, but he said it is his hopes that he will make the same concession speech in Tehran in 2019. Tehran is in Iran. So what's being said is they're already talking about regime change in Iran right now, stirring up the Medes. So I'm closing out just to give you something, not to instill fear or anything like that, but all that stuff that we may have heard about since we've been in this truth, we're in these days right now, right? And it's our duty to try to find different ways to wake up our brothers and sisters, most high willing, they'll wake up to this truth. But just in the same way that Christ used parables, right, to explain to them what's going on, we have that ability to see through the news and relate it to what's in the word and what was prophesied long ago. Hey, man, it's going down again. Right now. The days of Noah, the days of Lot, space program, Iran being stirred up, all of that stuff is happening in our lifetime. That's pretty much it. So again, we need to use it, take advantage of our sources of information. We got the scriptures, but our folks obviously don't want to hear it. They watch the news though. Still give it to them. Follow me? That's all I got. Shalom.